Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Gentleman Josh Hill. Come join me at a GDC MMA event. Come watch The Ultimate Fighter Wednesday nights at Buffalo Wild Wings in Stony Creek.
All right, Garrett here for GDC MMA. I'm with Jay, owner of the Fight Planet on Upper James Street in Hamilton, the place to be for all your UFC and MMA needs. We've got a big fight card coming up here this weekend. 164, the main card is Benson Henderson versus the one and only Showtime Pettis. I'm going to run through a couple fights with you, see what you think. We'll do a little prediction here, okay? So the first fight on the main card, Eric Koch coming back from a tough loss, going against Dustin Poirier. How do you see this one going?
Dustin Poirier's got a little bit of an anger issue coming into this fight. I think he's going to take that fight. He's going to take him to the ground, finish it in the second round by submission.
Interesting pick, interesting pick. I gotta say, I'm going with the same guy here. I like Koch a lot. I like the camp he's coming from with Pettis, but I'm a big Poirier fan. Just to be different here, I'm gonna say it's gonna be a tough fight, but third round TKO, Dustin Poirier. Okay, moving on. This fight, I'm really interested in this. It's intriguing because you've got Brandon Vera going back to heavyweight against Ben Rothwell, who hasn't had the best luck in the UFC. He's a trimmed down heavyweight now. He's doing everything he can to get his fight camps on point. But yeah, Ben Rothwell versus Brandon Vera. How do you see this one playing?
You know, a long time ago, Brandon Vera once told us that he would hold two belts at the same time in the UFC. He hasn't really thrived to the occasion. He hasn't really done too much except for maybe a 500 record. I really like Ben Rothwell being the smaller guy, a little bit shady, or a little bit lighter, less weight to cut. He's going to come out, he's going to shine, he's going to knock Brandon Vera out in the first round.
Man, I hate that you're picking the same as me because I feel the exact same way here. To be honest, Brandon Vera gets on my nerves like nobody else. He's all talk, no action. Ever since 6 years ago, he's been saying he's going to do this, he's been saying he's going to do that, and every time he comes out and he does none of what he says he's going to do, and it's all excuses from there. Apparently, he's a killer in the gym, but I mean that means nothing if you can't put it into the octagon. Next fight, the second top guy in the division in Chad Mendes versus Clay Guida. This is going to be an interesting fight. Who you got?
Chad Mendes, he just got recently knocked out by Jose Aldo, came back, picked up a W, but I like the Carpenter. The Carpenter Clay Guida has heart. I love the way that his brother smacks him around before each and every fight to get him going. Clay Guida, the Carpenter, is going to push his will and power over top of Chad Mendes. He's going to take a third round decision. Let's go.
Awesome, man. Okay, I'm pumped because for the first time I get to actually pick against you here. I think Chad Mendes is easily the second guy in the division. I think he got stifled against Jose Aldo because Jose Aldo is pretty much the second best fighter in the world, if not top 5. But he's going to put together a string of a couple more wins, and then he'll get that title shot again. I'm going to say Mendes, third round TKO. And okay, moving on to the co-main event, in Frank Mir versus Josh Barnett. Super excited to get Josh Barnett back into the picture here. How do you see this one playing?
The babyface assassin all day. Frank Mir, you break arms, but this kid's got heart. I like to say that he's a kid, but the babyface assassin's been around the UFC and fighting on circuits around the world for a long, long time. The babyface has a point to prove. He's going to finish you, Frank Mir. Watch your chin, boy.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. And dang, it's the same way I feel again, man. We're on point with some of these picks here. I kind of feel bad for Frank Mir because he is at the top of the division and doesn't get, sometimes he gets a little bit of slack, especially from Dana White and whatnot, but sometimes it's deserving. I mean, he doesn't come out and entertain sometimes. But I think he's up against it here against Josh Barnett. For some reason, because of all the talk in the past about them two fighting, Josh, took it as his fight coming back into the UFC. He wanted it to be against Frank Mir. All props to Frank Mir. He took the challenge and he's taken it, but I just don't see it going his way. If anything, maybe he catches a submission, later in the game, but I don't see it happening here. So I will say that Barnett gets a submission against the so-called best submission guy in the heavyweight division. I'll say second round. All right, so we are down to the main event. Benson Henderson versus Anthony Pettis. Now, this is a fight, obviously, 3 years in the making after the first fight back in the WEC. I remember watching that fight. I remember being blown away. I knew who Anthony Pettis was. I knew he was from Rufus' team. But just seeing him do that kick off the cage blew my mind and everybody else who was watching. Been pumped to see this fight. If you ask me from the outside looking in, it has looked like Henderson's been a little bit timid to take this rematch. It's been weird, like some of the things he's said, and it just seems like he's been avoiding me a little bit. I don't know, but what do you think? What's going on here?
Anthony Pettis, Showtime kick, Mr. Showtime himself off the cage. You know, that was when Benson Henderson was in WEC before he had the UFC gold, and that was also the one and only time I have seen Benson Henderson drop his hands since he walked to the UFC. He learned from that, and he learned never to ever drop his hands again. Showtime, you're all flash. You're up against all class, my friend. Benson Henderson is going to show you why he is the UFC Gold Strap champion right now. He leaves with the belt on his waist, but it does go all 5 rounds because neither of these guys can finish each other. They all got hard. They're both up to the challenge. But Benson Henderson continues to walk away with the belt. I'm sorry, Pettis fans.
Man, well said, well said. Well, I mean, I could easily see it going that way, but I'm going to pick Pettis. He's Showtime, he's flashy. I like him, I like his style, I like where he comes from, I like his camp, I like everything he does. Not to say I don't like Henderson, but, you know, in my honest opinion, I think Henderson has lost a couple of his fights at being the champion, so I don't necessarily think he even deserves the title right now.
Hey. You got to beat the champ to take the belt.
To be the champ. Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Tell that to a couple other guys. But that's fair enough. That being said, I'm going to take Showtime. I think it's going to be a flashy knockout. I think Henderson's going to be going in there with a chip on his shoulder. He's going to be trying to do things that he doesn't do necessarily all the time to try to show off a little bit and make up for that other loss and the Showtime kick that haunts him every night no matter what he says. So I'm taking Pettis, knockout, 3rd round. This is Garrett from GDCMMA.com. I'm here with Jay. We are at the Fight Planet on Upper James in Hamilton. We will see you next time. Come see the fights at Buffalo Wild Wings on Centennial in Stony Creek. Cheers.